I spent years living all the way in the box, afraid to step out, afraid to truly grab hold of my dream. And now I am breaking through, and I invite you to join me.
Your breakthrough starts now. Coming up on today's show, get ready to be inspired and transformed with our featured guests. Find out what's trending and get advice on life's daily challenges with Erica's top tips of the day. All of this and so much more coming up, so stay tuned. This is your one-stop shop for inspiration. The Erica Latrice Show. And now, here's your host, Erica.
Hello and welcome to the Erica Latrice Show. This is your one-stop shop for inspiration. Let me tell you, if you have been looking for a push, if you've been looking for some motivation, some encouragement, and inspiration to step out, you just landed on the perfect episode, and it starts with you. I'm so excited about my special guest in the Be Inspired Cafe, who has already been inspiring me backstage. So get your notepads ready. I have the founder of the new Bern Post, Randy Foster, here today, and we are talking about finding the silver lining even in the face of chaos, and how so much can be birthed out of those moments where you might feel like giving up, or you may feel like it's just a big obstacle or adversity in your way. I'm telling you, today is the confirmation. So if you've been looking for a sign to keep going, to step out, do not go anywhere. I'm going to take a short break to come back with our top tips, and then we're heading straight into the Be Inspired Cafe. I want to say a big thank you to my sponsor for today's episode. If you haven't checked out Love Letters to My Girls, I have no idea what you're waiting for, but Dr. Sharita Weatherspoon is doing something incredible. She has brought together more than 100 women from around the world to come together and share a message of hope, a message of empowerment to young girls through these letters. So you can check out Love Letters to My Girls. And when we come back, I'm jumping into my top tips for you today. I'll be right back. Birthed out of an idea for her own daughter, Dr. Sharita's vision has now turned into a movement. This wasn't just for her daughter. It was for other sisters and daughters around the world. The Love Letters to My Girls anthology is a book by Black women and girls, a collaboration of more than 100 women coming together to write letters to inspire, uplift, motivate, and empower the sisterhood. These stories bring you lessons and healing for those worn by their experiences as a Black woman in this world. Get your copy at loveletterstomygirls.com.
Get ready for all new episodes of the Erica Latrice Show. You can join me weekdays at 2 o'clock Eastern across social media at Erica Empowers. That's Erica spelled like America. If you have a message that you want to share on the show, email us right now at info@ericalatrice.com or visit online at ericalatrice.com/be on the show.
Welcome back. All right, so I'm going to share with you 4 quick reminders. If you are in a place right now where you're looking to step out, or maybe you've just been weighing your options to feel like you may not have all the tools, this is my reminder for you. The first thing that I want you to think about is that it truly starts with you. And that question that you should ask yourself to get started is think about those things that ignite you. What gives you passion? What fuels your fire? Because oftentimes it's that thing that's going to open the door for you. And a lot of times we can shrug it off and think that it's no big deal, or maybe it's too good to be true that you can actually work and love what you do. But I promise to you, when you decide to take that risk and when you decide to take that step out, either you're going to fall flat on your face and learn what not to do, or you're going to land on your feet and still grow from it. But either way, you're going to get the feedback that you need to make a difference. The second thing that I want to encourage you to think about, once you've gotten clear on what it is that you're passionate about, what lights you up, what do you find yourself talking about all day long? I actually posed the question today. If you could speak about one thing, only one thing for an entire year, what would you talk about? Your answer to that question is very revealing, because I can guarantee you could ask 5 other people that same question. They will not have the same answer. So understand now, you want to ask yourself the question, what can you do about it? That thing that lights you up, that thing that ignites you, is there something that's available to you right now that you can actually step into to start the ball rolling? And the third question that I would have you ask yourself, because usually this is where we get stuck, We get excited. We're like, yes, I'm just so much passion around this. But then we think about all of the obstacles in the way. So answer the question today, what's stopping you? When you think about taking that leap, when you think about that thing that lights you up, my question to you is, why haven't you done it? And not in a snooty, not in a stuck up way of what's wrong with you, why haven't you done it? But in a very honest way, whatever your answer to that question is, that's the only thing standing between you and starting. And once you've identified that, the next question I would have you ask yourself is, when can you start? It's great to have all these ideas. It's amazing to talk about it. It's absolutely outstanding to tell all your best friends all of the things that you have a desire to do. But until you set a date to it, until you make the decision that you're going to act on it, you're never going to get to that end goal that you probably are capable. I won't even say probably, that you absolutely are capable of getting to. So I am so excited about my special guest in the Be Inspired Cafe today, because he has done exactly that. He's a founder of a local newspaper, which is in my local community. So I'm extra excited about it. And so if you're watching live, if you are watching even the replay, tag a friend, tell a trailblazer to join in today, and welcome with me into the Be Inspired Cafe, absolute powerhouse trailblazer, Randy Foster. How are you doing today?
Good. Hold on. Let me get myself on the screen. I'm doing good. You're good.
Yes.
It's actually been a really busy day.
So many questions for you. I have to dial back because I'm I just want to throw 1,000 questions at you right now. My first question, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you transitioned into your role now as owner of Bern Post?
Well, I've been in newspapers many years, which is kind of an old technology that doesn't really work well anymore. About 3 years ago, I left the local newspaper where I had been executive editor over it and several other newspaper titles, because I just didn't see it working out. Plus, we were facing some new layoffs, and I felt that if I left, I might be able to save a couple of other jobs from other people losing jobs. But fortunately, I had a kind of a freelance gig that I was able to transition to that kind of paid the bills. But once you're a newspaper person, you never lose that news gathering urge. And so like the day after I left the newspaper, I started Bern Post. And I've been doing it for 3 years, but starting around, I kind of slow down for a while and ramp up. Like I covered, I was the only local news coverage of Hurricane Florence. The newspaper had stopped publishing. The TV station had been flooded out of its studio. So Bern Post continued to cover the hurricane live. And when COVID started back in early part of this year, I started covering it, paying attention to it, worrying about it, kind of urging local leaders to be proactive about it, which was ignored. And then starting in March, it started to get real busy, and I started doing stories actively throughout the day. So I started making Bern Post kind of my full-time job since then. And then a few months ago, my wife, who's like really the one who should be in this story, not me, she was a technical copy editor, a freelance technical copy editor, and it was she has an inherited disease called Huntington's disease, and we've known about it. She grew up with it in her family because it's inherited. But she was tested positive about 10 years ago. And not long after that, she was trying to figure out a way. She had to leave her job as a special ed teacher in the local school district because it was impacting her ability to organize and do all the things that a special ed teacher needs to do. So she went on full disability, but she wanted to be able to continue to work and not just wither away at home. So she sought help from the Easter Seals, and that's where you come in, Erica. You were the person that she worked with, and this is a small world. And her interaction with Easter Seals and you, after that, she wound up getting her technical editing job. And she did that for 4 years. She's sitting right next to me, 5 years. And she was their rock star, I tell you. She would be the one that they would go to. We all looked up to her because I started working with her. after I left the paper. And it was just amazing. And it wasn't just her ability to get the job done. As you have experienced, there's a kind of an aura about her.
Yes.
And she doesn't realize that she has this effect on people, but she does. And so a few months ago, and just doing the technical copy editing really was kind of getting harder and harder for her to do. It was really more that the job was changing and it was kind of hard to learn the new skills. So she left, but then she said, we ought to make New Bern Post a full-time thing. And at that point, we started exploring what to do and how to do it. And it became a mom and pop operation. And since then, we've started marketing ourselves and selling ad space in our paper. But we're trying to do it in a different way. The mission of the news side of New Bern Post is to make the community better. And I think the mission of our advertising side is to make the community better as well. So you can buy an ad on New Bern Post, but what you really are buying is an advocate in us. And we're selective on who we advertise to. Not everybody can come up to us and want to buy an ad and we say yes. If we approach a business, it's because we vetted that business and think that it's something that we would be proud to have on our site. But it's not just an ad you get an article about your business. You get a photo slideshow about all the things that you sell. You show up in a new directory that we're doing called the New Bern Post directory that slowly but surely will be a very robust list of all the businesses and services in our community. And when you click on it, it'll take you to this great story about who owns it, what they do, and their dreams and hopes and all that. So you can go there now and see what we did for the businesses on Craven Street. We're coming up soon with bed and breakfasts and restaurants and entertainment venues that have been hurting during COVID that we thought could use our assistance. We're working on something for Black-owned businesses. And we want to make a difference. And we don't just want to sell ads. We want to sell something that really will push the community in the positive direction. So that's where we sit now. It's working out pretty well. I think maybe in a year we might actually call this a full-time job that pays the full-time living. But I think my son, he's 15 years old, thinking about going to work. And I said, it doesn't matter what you do, but the best of both worlds is if you can do something that makes a difference in the community and make an honest living doing it. And if you can do that, then it doesn't get any better than that. So,
yes.
Glad that you enjoy doing it. And then I just don't know how to do anything else but be a journalist. I'm kind of hamstrung that way. But yes. I would really like to introduce Sarah.
No. Sarah's like, leave me out of this. We're going to Sarah on. Hi, Sarah. Sarah is here. And what you're seeing, the two of you collaborating, I feel like you've stepped out in a space where many people are afraid at times. Like you have to your point, even the media outlet that you've worked for, you have these established businesses, you have these things that could make you feel like, is this going to be successful? Is this kind of a risk? Is this something that I should do? So, Sarah, you kind of pushed Randy out there with with that inspiration to keep going. So what tips would you say to someone that's kind of, they're hesitating, maybe they're passionate about something or they have an idea, but they're hesitating on stepping out and sharing it?
You've only got one life, so now's the time.
Yes. And so I have a couple of questions for you too, Sarah, because you've been in the both of you, y'all, like when we talk power couple, I really feel like that's exactly what you are, because you come together and you support each other. And you, Sarah, you've just done a lot of work, even with your background helping children with developmental disabilities, your background helping nonprofits and social causes and raising a significant amount of money to help keep these things going. So what would you say to someone that is, maybe they're just looking at the profit that they can get, or they're just looking at how it can help them? What advice would you give on our ability to be a giver, our ability to go out and help our community?
Helping other people is always sweeter than just taking, I think.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to talk too, since I have you here, where you've talked about Huntington disease, and you've talked about like you've helped people with that. Is there something that you wish people were more aware about with the cause that you support?
I think I wish that more people knew about Huntington's disease, period, because a lot of people aren't aware of it, and they're I don't know. That's pretty much it.
Well, and I'll take that cue to maybe talk a little bit about Huntington's disease. It's inherited, and it affects the brain, and over time, it impacts brain functions. And over time, Sarah will lose control over much of her body, and there are psychological consequences as well. She grew up with it. Her aunt had it. Her mom had it. Her uncle had it, and so on. She was aware of it through the generations, she kind of should. You also gradually lose the ability to talk in many cases, and Sarah started to experience symptoms in that direction, and it's kind of hard for her to it's hard to live with the prospect of not being able to communicate, especially when you're trying to communicate so many things that are going on in your life. There's a lot of frustration, and with that, there's a lot of anger and fear that goes into what she is experiencing. So we have a world-class team of doctors and psychiatrists and therapists who are working with her to help bring quality of life for her. But in the meantime, while she's kind of going down this road with blisters in her boots, she's still doing a positive thing, many positive things. She's working for a website now with that, blogging about Huntington's disease for a global audience. That just started recently. She has her own blog called Me and HD. She's written a book based on her blog entry. She's been interviewed and on and on and on. On a daily basis, when you get up in the morning, you try to figure out how to ingest caffeine and what to have and how to pay the bills. It's kind of hard for her to remember that she's a rock star to many people, and so we forget these kinds of things because she has a very niche audience, and in that audience, worldwide, she's well known. And in many cases, she's pretty well known in the community too. I used to write about her a lot when I was working for the local paper. I wrote about my children too a lot until they got old enough to be embarrassed by it. But so anyway, she tested positive 10 years ago, and that was emotionally devastating for all of us. We just knew that it was going to be a rough ride from here on out. And she spent about a year in deep, deep depression. And she kind of came out the other side of that year thinking, I'm not going to let this kick my butt. And she went out and she did all sorts of things, including going to Easter Seals to try to get vocational training to get a job so that she could contribute again. And which she had been contributing all along, but she wanted to get a job as well. And since then it's been just a journey. Some days are good, some days are great, some days are awful. Lots of trips to the hospital for various things. And then as luck would have it, the end of September, both of us caught COVID, and we had COVID for a full month between being bedridden for 3 weeks and then recovering it on either end of it. So we had it for a full month. I can tell you right now, it's not the flu. It's not like any flu I ever had. And 2 trips to the emergency room for Sarah during that time tells me that it's a very serious thing. A county commissioner named Johnny Sampson tested positive shortly after we did. He was the only member of the County Board of Commissioners to speak against opening schools, saying that he didn't want to have the death of a child on his conscience. At about just a few weeks later, he contracted it, and then a month later, he died of it. So, to us, it's very real. As a journalist, I've been covering it pretty thoroughly since February and very thoroughly since March. Spotting trends, contacting officials to get more information, and et cetera, et cetera. But in the meantime, I've also been writing about all positive things in the community too. So,
Yes.
we fill the Bern Post with all sorts of news. It isn't just COVID coverage. But that brings us back to Sarah. Okay, she's done. So I don't know if you had any other questions.
I do actually, because I find it interesting too, where in the face of this, in the face of COVID, it has opened doors for many. And I would say it's pushed us and it's taken us to a place where many people have had to look at things that are real. I would love to know your thoughts on that, especially being in the community that we're in, where you have so many people that are split, where they're saying, oh, it's nothing more than the flu, or it's not really a big deal. Has there been anything eye-opening in your coverage, or actually, with you experiencing this firsthand, that can speak to those people that are so divided by whether or not this is even a real thing or not?
Well, unfortunately, it became a political hot potato. And you had those who were thinking that it was just some way to make President Trump look bad, and it really wasn't as serious as it was. So that all along they've been saying it isn't something. They're not going to wear a mask because wearing a mask indicates that there's something to it. And so now, and also saying that once the election was over, that it would magically go away. Well, the election is over, and it is worse than it's ever been, and it's continuing to get worse. Meanwhile, Craven County Schools, I'm working on a story right now about this. Craven County Schools is going to be reopening for elementary school kids 4 days a week, 3 days a week for in-campus instruction starting in early January. The science, they say, says that younger people, children, are less susceptible to the disease, less inclined to spread it. I think all along science has proved that this is a fog of war kind of thing, where we don't really know all the impacts because it is a new virus, a novel coronavirus. For a long time, we didn't really know how it was spread. So there's a lot of learning that needs to happen, even now, about how to prevent it. Otherwise, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And I knew that it would continue to spike once winter happened. I knew that it wasn't going to decline or go away in the springtime. And I know that this is going to be an issue that we're going to be dealing with for the next year or so or more. And that, we're already up to nearly 250,000 Americans are dead due to coronavirus. In Craven County, a small rural county of about 100,000 people, our death count is 68. The 68th was announced today. There's one county over that has twice our population that has 3/4 of our death rate. We have a very serious death rate taking place in our county. We're rapidly approaching 2,000 positive cases in our county. That would be 2% of our total population so far have tested positive for the virus. And it's commonly stated among scientific community that for every positive test, there's probably about 10 other cases out there that go undetected. So that winds up, if we do the math, that's about 20,000 or 22,000. Almost 1 in 4 residents in Craven County have the virus or have had the virus up to now, statistically speaking, and what the most likely description is. Yet we still go out onto the streets and into businesses, and people aren't wearing their masks. They're not taking precautions. And if to do so is a statement against a political party or a president, it's insanity the way our country is dealing with it. And it's no surprise that the United States is worse off than any other nation in the world because of this. And I just read the other day that little old South Dakota with, I believe South Dakota has one representative in the House of Representatives because the population is so small, so spread out, rural, open countryside, has the highest death rate in the world. In the world. So that's what we're dealing with now. I don't know that when President-elect Biden takes office, I don't know how he's going to handle it, because he's going to get resistance from the same side that's resisting preventative measures now. Only they'll have the excuse that he's in the other party and he's pro-life or something like that, in order to excuse their behavior to resist social distancing and wearing a mask. It's not that hard to wear a mask. It doesn't suffocate you. It doesn't subject you to carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide poisoning. All it does is keep you from spreading the disease, and now studies show it also prevents you from contracting the disease. Do that, stay 6 feet away from people, and don't go out unless you have to. Do that, and then we will control the spread. But we're not doing that at all. We're holding open elections, and with the White House encouraging people to show up and stand in line with people to vote. We're making it difficult, if not impossible, to vote by absentee ballot or early voting. So that's where we stand. We just need, as a nation, to look at this as a war on this issue, and everybody becomes a soldier in that war and fighting that. We're real good as a nation at doing things like that, fighting a common enemy. We all, despite whatever it is we believe when it comes to our nation being threatened, if we approach it that way, we can defeat anything. But right now, we're not going to defeat anything the way we are approaching it now. It's just insanity, if you ask me.
It's so divided, and it's eye-opening to me because my mom actually passed away last year. So it was before all of the COVID. But what she was fighting was something that for the average person, they would have no symptoms. It wouldn't even be a big deal for them because they don't have compromised immune systems. It was never a question to us whenever we would go and visit her in the hospital, or whenever any visitors came around. It was never a question to put on a mask, put on gloves, put on a cap if we needed to, and gowns. Like, that was just normal, because we knew if even a cold from the grandchildren could kill her. So what kind of is eye-opening to me as well when we see this division is that most people that do come out, especially in our community, as you pointed out, it's as if it's so divided. I have another question for you as we wrap up. The time is flown by. I'm just listening. It's so divided, and it's as if people never think outside of themselves. Well, I'm fine. It's just the flu, and they don't think about other people. And I think about people in similar positions as my mom, where something like a cold could be life or death to send them into septic shock. So my question to you too, from the side of media, where I hear a lot of people, they don't want to listen to the media, or they feel that it's so biased that when they are seeing these stories, they don't believe them. What are your thoughts on that, with you being, you actually owning a media outlet and having experienced it yourself?
Well, first off, I don't try to attack people who are going to disagree with it. For me to try to accommodate that will diminish what I do, which is just seek out information and try to interpret, in many cases, mathematically. Like, for example, based just on numbers, I was able to find out that the rate of community spread increased dramatically, went from barely 10 to 15% of the total new cases to 1 in 3 over the last 2 months. It's my opinion that coincides. Well, it's not my opinion. It's actually factual to say that it coincides with early voting and election day. It's my opinion that this spike in a community spread is because of how we conducted elections. And now we're coming into the holiday seasons too. So we'll just see what happens. But as far as whether people believe me or not, I've stopped trying to be believable to people who don't have an open mind about looking at factual information. Just to automatically call something false news because you disagree with it, I don't care if you read. I hear that all the time from some people who stumble on my site and they send me a message, and I say, our site's not for you, and I block them. I'm just not interested.
Yes, you just gotta show up for it. So this is my last question for you. How can we? So I'm just like, I can't believe the time has flown by because I've been sitting back. I feel like I'm in the audience today, just listening. But how can we learn more about what you offer and get connected to read more of the New Bern Post?
Well, my website is. I'm typing it in right now. That's my website. It's newbernpost.com. And I'm on Facebook too, and that's under New Bern Post. And I'm on Twitter as well. That's New Bern Post as well. And so I have a couple of personal accounts, but I'm just not going to get into that. Maybe later I'm not going to get into it because I don't know the URLs offhand for them. But my handle on Twitter is River Editor. And I think I have another one associated with New Bern Post, but I seldom update it. So those are ways you can do it. We have a large following on Facebook that's 3/4 women for some reason. 75% of our Facebook followers are women. 53% of Facebook readers are women, but we have a good number of readers. And then something like 75%, this is kind of a telling indicator, 75% of New Bern Post readers have a college education or a graduate degree. So, that's what we're going for, is trying people who have open minds and willing to look at different perspectives and willing to look at things factually, know the difference between opinion and fact, and know the difference between opinion that's baseless and opinion that's based on fact. So that's what we're after.
Plus logo, right? That's a tagline: opinion versus fact. Yes.
Yeah. No.
So I hope you can come back again because I feel like your story is so inspiring. Sarah's story is so inspiring, and what the both of you have done in your community. Yes, I love you all. I'm beaming because I have had the amazing privilege to see Sarah's story, to see what she's done in the community over the years, and I know that the both of you are making an impact and inspiring. So I would say, what are your final thoughts, especially for that person that's watching and maybe they're hearing Sarah's story and there's something that they're challenged with and they feel like they can't make a difference? What advice or what tips would you give to them?
It's the communication problem.
Well, for me, I did New Bern Post as a hobby for 2.5 years. I put Google ads on it. I was making like maybe $100 a month, working 15 or 20 hours, 20 or 30 hours a week on it, and making $100 a month. But I did it because I love it. And now we're doing a lot better now that we're in charge of our own ad sales. And so I'm able to do something I love, but it takes time. You just have to, well, let me rephrase that. I knew I wanted to be a journalist when I was a kid. Actually starting at age 13 when I started watching Watergate hearings and seeing what the role that the Washington Post newspaper played in exposing the crimes that were taking place in the White House at the time. That was inspiring to me, and I wound up majoring in journalism in college and working in newspapers since 1987 as a reporter, and then since 1995 as an editor. My dream job is either to be a reporter or a photographer. Those are the best jobs out there. I do a little bit of both. I do editing, reporting, and photography. So 2/3 of my job I love. The other part I have to do. And but to me, there's no better job than being a journalist. I've always loved doing it, and I can't imagine doing anything else. And so I just kind of stuck to my dream. And sometimes it happened immediately, and the things that I wanted to happen, and sometimes it took more than 3 years for it to happen. But it just took a little patience and sticking to it and not giving up on my dream, just like you have done. You had a dream. You were talking about doing your program with Sarah and I when we were visiting you, and now here you are. So stick to your dreams. You don't have to wait. It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but if you keep your dream going, if you keep it alive, it'll eventually become alive. So
that is so true, so good. And those are the moments that it's easy to forget how far we've come. It's easy to feel like maybe you haven't fully arrived, and so it can be discouraging. But you heard it here. I have to wrap, and I'm just like, this time has flown by because I could listen and keep talking for so long, because I feel like we all are in a place right now where we need to take heed to this. If you're watching today, if you heard Sarah's story, if you heard Randy's story, there's nothing different about any of us than those of you that are watching. We all have challenges that we have to overcome. We all have obstacles that we have to push beyond. But if you can do that, and if you can stay the course, I promise you the end result is probably going to impact more people than you ever imagined. So, Randy, thank you so much for being on the show today. I truly enjoyed what you had to share.
Well, we enjoyed being a guest.
We sure did.
You actually, this whole day turned out a whole lot different than I expected. When we found out who you were, it's like, oh my gosh. It's so, your story is so inspiring in itself. So it's wonderful to be on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone's been sticking around. So for every one of you that are watching live right now, huge thank you for tuning in today. If you want to stay connected with me, you can do so across social media at Erica Empowers. If this story inspired you, if it encouraged you, tell a friend, tag a trailblazer. And as I'm always telling you, go out and make today, not yesterday, not last week. You can't change it, but make today amazing, because it's absolutely a choice.
For more inspiration.